I hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving. And as you can tell, my kids are geared up and ready for Christmas. We have been decorating the house today. So that is on their mind. So I hope everybody's getting ready for the next big holiday. But this week, we're going to talk about jealousy. And this is something that a lot of people struggle with, and Christians included. In Philippians 2, verses 3 and 4, it says, "Do nothing from selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility count others more significant than yourselves. Let each of you look not only to his own interests, but also to the interest of others. Have this mind among yourselves, which is yours in Christ Jesus." Now I've heard all my life, rejoice with those who rejoice and weep with those who weep. That is what verse 4 is telling us to do. When it says, let each of you look not only into his own interest, but also the interest of others. For me, it is easier to weep than to rejoice sometimes. What about that coworker that got a promotion that you have been wanting for a long time, but they overlooked you or they hired somebody new? You didn't get that. Or what about it's the time for bonuses, it's the time for raises? What about the person beside you hasn't been there as long as you, but yet they got more of a bonus than you did? What about the person who seems to have friends everywhere they go? They never have trouble making a friend. They never meet a stranger. What about the family that seems to be so close and gets along all the time? They just seem perfect. The list goes on and on and on. It is hard for me to rejoice in those situations. But as a Christian, we are called to do that. We are to not be jealous of people, but to count others more significant than ourselves, like it says in verse 3. The Bible talks about jealousy, and I want to take the remainder of this time to see some examples of jealousy and how it worked out for those people. We're going to begin with Saul. In 1 Samuel chapter 18, verses 7 through 9, it says, And the women sang to one another as they celebrated, Saul has struck down his thousands, and David his 10,000s. And Saul was very angry, and this saying displeased him. He said, They have ascribed to David 10,000s, and to me they have ascribed thousands. And what more can he have but the kingdom? And Saul eyed David from that day on. Saul was jealous of David. He let his jealousy affect his ability to make wise decisions, and he even tried to kill David. Jealousy sidetracks reason. Saul was so wrapped up in his jealousy that it ruined his life. Are we like that? Do we get so jealous of someone or something that we don't make good decisions? Does it become all we think about? Last week we talked about Cain, and he's another example of jealousy, and we find that in Genesis 4. What was the result of his jealousy? Murder. We talked last week about Joseph's brothers. They were jealous of him, and it caused them to sell Joseph. And they had to end up lying to their father about what happened to their brother. We find this in Genesis 37. In Genesis 21, we see the jealousy between Hagar and Sarah. We know that Sarah was not able to have a son by Abraham, and Hagar was. Sarah's jealousy caused her to send Hagar off to the wilderness, but it did not stop the problems. There were still problems for years to come. And as we read that account, we see that the anger, the jealousy, just was going back and forth the whole time. And Sarah she couldn't stand it. So she thought, okay, I'll just get rid of Hagar. And she didn't kill her, but she sent her off. Did that solve her problems? No, it didn't solve her problems. It didn't stop the jealousy. In Genesis 30, we see jealousy between two sisters, Rachel and Leah. Leah was able to have children, Rachel was not. Then it turns around and Leah was jealous of Rachel because Jacob loved Rachel more. It was a never-ending circle of jealousy. Do we see that today between siblings? Lots of times there are times when siblings are jealous of one another and it causes problems. It should not be this way. And we've talked about in previous devos, don't favor one child over the other. Yes, one may be smarter. One may be more athletic. One may be more artistic. One may have more common sense. One may be prettier than the other. But we cannot create jealousy. We should not have favorites. And we have talked about in several devos what happens when you favor a child. And that child senses that, and that child knows that, and it creates jealousy and animosity, and it just continues on, and you just don't want that. Ananias and Sapphira were also jealous, but they were jealous of other Christians who were giving generously. And we see this in Acts 5. But we're going to back up and we're going to start at chapter 4, verses 34. And I'm going to read that. There was not a needy person among them, for as many as were owners of lands or houses sold them and brought the proceeds of what was sold, and laid it at the apostles' feet, and it was distributed to each as any had need. Thus Joseph, who is also called by the apostles Barnabas, which means son of encouragement, a Levite, a native of Cyprus, sold a field that belonged to him, and brought the money and laid it at the apostles' feet. But a man named Ananias with his wife Sapphira sold a piece of property. And with his wife's knowledge, he kept back for himself some of the proceeds and brought only a part of it and laid it at the apostles' feet. The problem with this is they lied about it. Yes, Ananias and Sapphira, they gave. They sold their property. But unlike Barnabas, they didn't give all that they had. And they wanted to be praised for it. They wanted oh, look at me. Look how much she gave. Look how much they do for the church. Are we sometimes like that? I've heard it, and maybe it's because I'm a preacher's wife, but I hear, oh, so-and-so does so much for the church, you just let them handle it. Or, oh, so-and-so always cooks when someone dies, so you just let her handle it. She's got it under control. Or so-and-so is really good at bulletin boards, so you just make sure she does the bulletin boards. No one else needs to help her. We've got to be careful with that. That's a fine line of control and jealousy, and also a real fine line of, look what I did. Look at what I've done. And even though they may be good about that, it's great if you do bulletin boards. It's great if you do bake food or cook food. But how do you do it? Do you take someone food and then you get on the phone and you call, oh, guess what I just did? I just sent a cake to Paula. I just did this. Oh, it was the best cake I've ever made. Creates jealousy. You want that attention. You want that. That's not what Barnabas did. Barnabas sold the field because he wanted to give back to the church. They needed the money. They needed the help. No one told him to go do it. He wasn't doing it for the praise. He did it to help. Well, jealousy creeps in, and Ice and Fire are like, we don't like that. We want to be on top. We want to be number one. So they went and sold property, but they lied about how much money they gave. And we know the result. We know the result of what happened. They were struck down, or Ananias was, I think. One of them was struck down with lightning, and, or maybe not lightning, but they were struck down. But they lied because of jealousy. Have we ever done that? Were we so jealous that we stretch the truth about something to make us look better than the other person? Jealousy causes that. And when I was doing this Devo, I thought about the stories you hear at work, even stories in family, stories in church, and how one person can tell the story, but then someone else was there and they tell the story, but they got to make it sound better, or they got to make it sound like they were the better person, or they're the ones that did the most, and some of that is natural, some of that is human, but some of that's jealousy, and we have to watch us being jealous of other people. Matthew 13:53-58 shows that there are actually some people that were jealous of Jesus. And verse 53 says, and when Jesus had finished these parables, he went away from there. And coming to his hometown, he taught them in their synagogues, that they were astonished and said, where did this man get his wisdom and those mighty works? Is he not the carpenter's son? Is not his mother called Mary? Are not his brothers James and Joseph and Simon and Judas? And are not all his sisters with us? Where then did this man get all these things? And they took offense at him. But Jesus said to them, a prophet is not without honor except in his hometown and in his own household. And he did not do many mighty works there because of their unbelief. Again, jealousy. Is this truly who isn't he just that old poor carpenter's son? Doesn't he have normal brothers and sisters? How is he doing these things? We got to figure it out. He can't be better than us. People were jealous of Jesus. What about the apostles? I like this story. It kind of fits in, I guess, with 5 of us kids. We're always, you're saying, oh, we're mom's favorite, we're dad's favorite, or this brother likes me best, or my sister does this better. So I don't know. For some reason, this has always stuck out in my mind. But in Luke 9:46-48, it says, an argument arose among them as to which of them was the greatest. But Jesus, knowing the reason of their hearts, took a child and put him by his side and said to them, whoever receives this child in my name receives me, And whoever receives me receives him who sent me. For he is least among you all is the one who is great. The apostles were arguing over who was the greatest. Have we ever done this? And like I said before, I see it a lot in my two kids. And I see it in adults too. I'm better than you. He likes me better. I'm better at this. And we always have like that little back and forth, especially between siblings. Like I said, mom likes me more. Dad likes me more. Grandma likes me the best. Grandpa lets me do this and he doesn't let the other kids do it. It happens. But we have to be careful because then that feeds into the other child and it creates jealousy. It creates arguments. And sometimes I think it is human to be jealous. Everyone compares themselves to someone or something in some way. We do. We do it when we go buy a car. We do it when we buy a house. We do it when we buy clothes. We do it, I hate to say it, when we buy groceries. I have heard that, you don't want to go to this store. You need to go to this store if you want not better groceries, but you all know what I'm saying. Oh, they shop there. They can't afford to go here. You're always being compared. And yes, over my simple things like groceries. I have seen it happen. So everybody is comparing themselves. But as Christians, we need to strive to not be jealous and try not to do that. And like I said, it's easy to weep with those who are weeping. It's hard to feel sorry for someone. We've had a few deaths this week in our congregation, and it is easy to feel sorry for them. It is easy to cry. It is easy to be heartbroken. They have lost a loved one. For the ones that we've lost a loved one in the past, we know what it's like. We know how hard it is. It's easy. At least it is for me. It's easy to relate to someone. Or what about someone who's going through a surgery? We've had a couple of members this week that went through surgery as well. Some was an emergency and some were planned. But how easy is it for me? Oh no, I feel sorry for you, or I hate it, or what can I do? To me, it's just more natural to weep with someone, to care for someone when they're in need, when they're hurting, when they need somebody there, than it is to rejoice when something good happens in their lives. What about, I've seen this one a lot, where you're pregnant, but then you have a friend who's been trying for years to get pregnant and they can't get pregnant. To me, that's hard. That's hard. It takes a lot for that one who's been trying and they just got the news, hey, you're not going to have a child. You're going to have to adopt. You're not going to be able to have one naturally. How hard is that to rejoice in that situation? Or how hard is it to rejoice when I said we just had a few deaths this week, but yet then on the flip side of that, someone's getting married. Your heart is full, your heart is sorrowful, you're sad, but yet at the same time, there's something good happening. A marriage is happening. Sometimes the sadness takes away from the goodness, but we are supposed to rejoice for others. And it says when something good happens, but I think we need to rejoice all the time, be happy for other people. And it's hard. It's hard. And especially with the holidays, I hear a lot of, I can't buy my kids as much as so-and-so, or I can't compare with this gift, or and the kids say, so-and-so is getting this for Christmas. I want this, and you just can't do it. It's really, really easy to get jealous in the holidays. At least it is for me. So we have to be careful. As Christians, as people, there's jealousy all around us. So we just have to be careful of that. And in the book that I am studying, it says that this song, it's Remind Me, Dear Lord. And I think we have sung it like maybe twice in my lifetime. But it kind of puts back into perspective everything we've talked about. And it says, the things that I love and hold dear to my heart are just borrowed. They're not mine at all. Jesus only let me use them to brighten my life. So remind me, dear Lord. Nothing good have I done to deserve God's own Son. I'm not worthy of the scars in his hands. Yet he chose the road to Calvary to die in my stead. Why he loved me, I can't understand. Roll back the curtain of memory now and then. Show me where you brought me from and where I could have been. Remember, I'm human and humans forget. So remind me, dear Lord. Sometimes when we get jealous of others, we need to be reminded of the verse that we started off with, Philippians. Do nothing out of selfish ambition or conceit. Count others more significant than yourselves. Put others first. Look at the interest of others. And I think most of us do that. It's a very hard thing. But I also know jealousy rears its ugly head very quickly. And we just have to watch that. As Christians, we have to watch the things we say, the things we do, and the things we let take over our lives. So this week, let's work on our jealousy. And next week, I think we're talking about selfishness is what we're going to talk about. So we had jealousy this week and selfishness next week. So I hope you all have a great week, and I will see you all here next week.